Hello guys, good evening. So I had a spare hour this evening, so I thought we'd pop on and just chat about the new FlyByWire stable version been released today. I had a spare hour this evening, so I thought we'd pop on and just chat about getting a couple of things sorted for you. There we go. Right, so basically this is just a very informal Q&A session, and of course there's a whole new host of features tonight to have a look through. Some of them you can only see in the air. If we get a chance to get in the air we will do, but if not we'll just stay on the ground here at this rather nice looking Manchester airport from Mako Simulations. Have a look in the video description for information on how to get that. But yeah, lots of detail. I might take a drone flight round a little bit later, but of course the main reason we're here is to answer any questions you may have about this new stable release version. It's the version that features Simbrief as well as a host of all other different features. Now most of these features means expertly, does it mean you can leave the mobile device on? Yeah, while we're on the ground, leave that on. But yeah, okay, so most of these features, what I'm just going to try and do for you is find the changelog, so I can bring that up. Because there's far too many for me to try and remember. But there's a lot of things incorporated into it, like different announcements on the FMA, different announcements on the ECAM. So there are all sorts of things which you may not even notice have actually been popped in into the FlyByWire build, but they are there. So very quickly, if I just run through some of the major changes. So Simbrief. That's the main one. We've got Simbrief Integration, which I'll take you through how to get that working. First of all, of course, you do need to have a Simbrief account, but that's very easy to set up. Just head over to simbrief.com and set that up. If you're unfamiliar with what Simbrief is, it's basically what I would consider to be the greatest free flight planning tool available. Anyone that's not tried it, please head to simbrief.com. Just pop a link in there for you, and that's yeah, head over there and you basically create a flight plan. Now one of the things that you will need to do if you are going to use Simbrief and with this FlyByWire mod is you need to have this particular aircraft profile in your Simbrief fleet. Otherwise, I think Simbrief has a default A320. Obviously it's not an A320neo, so it has a default A320, but the weights of that, maximum fuel it can take, maximum payload, etc., are all very, very slightly different to what this aircraft is. So you need to make sure all those weights are aligned. Now if you go into the video description for this video, I think I've popped that in there. Let me just double check. Let me see. Have I popped it in there? It's okay, my other browser is working a little bit slowly. I've not popped it in there. I will pop that in there so people can grab that. So Eastwards Lee, that's right, there's no Neo profile, but there is with a link that I will send you. Limitless, just letting you know, in your first video about this you said you cannot load the payload, but you actually can. Yes, you can. It was on the second page, which by that point I'd not actually discovered, but I'll have a little look at that as well in a moment. Strong Wheel 54, what's up? Thank you for joining. Any questions? Please do ask. So what I'm going to do is I'm quickly just going to get for you a copy of this aircraft profile for use in Simbrief. So just need to copy a link there, and we'll pop this in for you now, because if you do use the default A320 profile in Simbrief, then you'll discover that the weights don't all match up, and well, we don't want that. Weight balance is of course very, very important when it comes to flying, so we need to make sure that that is that's all working. So I'm just going to head in and pop a link into that now. Just bear with me 1 second. So Simbrief profile, A320 320NX. Right, so I've saved that, so if you just refresh your browsers or head to the video description, that should be there. It is a huge link. Okay, so I think must be about 150 characters long, this link, but go in there and click on that. That will then take you to a Simbrief web page where you should just be able to import that aircraft into your Simbrief fleet. You've then got it, so that's good. The Baldorers, hello, you're going to do a video about the go-around procedure and the soft go added in 0.5. Yes, we can do that. We'll not do that tonight, but we will discuss things like that have been done. Snake Eyes, thank you very much. Aaron, follow the instructions. When I go to the init page, there is no init upload link. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to hop on board. Let's fire up. So let's have a look at this Simbrief integration and how that all works. So first of all, just need to get some power to the engines. Not the engines, to the aircraft. We might get some power to the engines in a little while. So, can you start the 320 in cold and dark in FS 2020? Yes, you can. In order to do that, you need to make sure you are departing from a gate. Don't depart from the runway. So, in order to do that, you have to actually either use the drop-down menu in the flight planner or literally zoom in as close as you can to the airfield and select a gate. So, yeah, that is very, very possible. Okay, so all I need to be doing as well is, I'm not doing this in the correct order, by the way. A full cold and dark tutorial is probably needed again now as things have progressed a little bit. Strong wheel, is that loud? Hopefully it didn't drown me out too much. We'll start the APU just in case we are going to do a little bit of a flight. And I'm just kind of going through some automatic flows here. Okay, so let me turn the screens up so we can see all of these. I'll turn the first officer screens off because that increases frame rates. Another little tip for you. I'll turn these screens up as well. So we got IR alignment in 7 minutes. So how many of you have actually used the developer build over the last few weeks? Because a lot of the features that have been released into this stable build have also featured in the developer build. The Simbrief hasn't, though. That is brand new to all of us. But if you've been using the developer build for a while, then there are a few things that you've probably already seen. But I will flag them up just in case you if you weren't aware of them. So especially how the sound's different in your experience. I see one of the things that is different, a lot of the engine sounds, if you're actually panning around the aircraft, so stood outside, we'll fire the engines up and take the drone and have a listen. And also reverse thrust, you can hear that rather well. And the way as well, if you're moving around the flight deck, they just sound a little bit different from where you sit. So that's good. Why does the autopilot still mess up the arrival star procedure? The best way I can help you with that is to say that you need to make sure that your star is input at the very, very start of your flight. It should be done anyway like that for fuel costing purposes, fuel planning purposes. If you leave entering the star too late, so if you've already passed the initial approach fix, so that's the first approach fix of the star, if you've already passed that and then you go in and enter the star, well then Flight Sim really, really doesn't like it. It will take you back to the start of the star and have you flying the whole thing again in a big sort of spaghetti-like pattern. So the key to that is always make sure your start is programmed right at the very, very start of your flight, as is done in the real world. Of course, air traffic control can change that, but it's normally changed well before you reach that initial approach fix. So that's fine. Is the chrono still on the screen? I'm sorry about that. Let's get rid of that. There we go. So that's gone. Okay, so let's have a little look at setting up Simbrief. Okay, so here is the MCDU, and first of all we need to clear any messages that are in this bottom scratch pad. That's just good practice, because the moment, basically anything that's in the scratch pad, when you click on the left side keys or the right side keys, you're telling it to input information from the scratch pad into whichever button you've pressed at the side. Well, obviously if there's something in there, that's going to be annoying. That's not going to work. So let me just shift that chat window out of the way as well, so you can see what I'm pressing. Alright, so the first thing you need to do is, once you've clicked on the MCDU menu, then go to options. Okay, and a couple of things that I'll cover just while we are here. You've got a realism setting now, so if you go into the realism setting, you can change the align time. So at the moment mine's set to real. You can have it set to fast, or you can have it set to instant. So something you can do there. That doesn't take place until you next load into the aircraft. So if I clicked fast or instant now, it wouldn't just align it, it would be the next time you come into the aircraft that works. You've got the self tests as well, so that's set to 15, but you obviously can go in and change that if you so wish. I'll pop that back to 15. Okay, so let's hit return and go back to our A320NX options. So whilst we're here, each whether I've seen startup bids with the A320, the pilot turns on the ADIRS, but with each had to wait until the amber light turned off. In FS 2020 it works immediately. Yeah, if you look, the amber light does flick on, but it's almost instant, isn't it? So that's just a sim issue. Snake Eyes, do I have any videos where you show how to manage the descent? Doesn't have functioning VNAV, obviously. Will manage mode follow altitude constraints set by waypoint constraints? Yes, it will, but it won't descend at sort of a delicate rate. So let's say you are 80 miles out from your first constraint. Let's say your first constraint is 10,000 feet. You start your descent 80 miles out, and instead of the Airbus at the moment giving you a nice gentle profile to descend on, it'll just drop you like a stone, descend you at like 4,000 feet per minute, and then you'll be trundling along at 10,000 feet for the next 50 miles. So the way I do that is I work out the own top of descent, and I do have a video on doing that, which, bear with me, I shall pop a link to in a minute. Where's that gone? So somewhere there is a video which says how to calculate your top of descent. It's actually really, really easy when you know how. I know that sounds hope that doesn't sound patronizing, but no, it really is easy. So if top of descent video, hang on, I'll pop this in for you. So if you want to look at how to do the top of the descent and get a nice gentle profile to descend, then just check that link out. Fredbox, when loading a flight plan from the Microsoft Flight Planning, used for ATC of course, the Simbrief load option is not visible. Is it possible to reset them at do? Okay, well, do you know what? I don't use the default ATC, but what we will do is we'll try and get that working now, shall we? Basically, in order to use the Simbrief integration in this new build, what you don't need to do is set any flight planning at all in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Just go to the flight planning screen, so the globe, find the airport and the gate that you want to spawn at, just select that and hit fly now. Don't put any arrival information, no SID, no star, nothing like that. And that's all I've done here. So I've set ourselves up at Manchester Airport. There is absolutely no there's no flight plan in our in the system at all. Air traffic control has absolutely no idea what we're doing here or where we're going, and we're just sat on the ground. And I've already been to Simbrief prior to starting this stream with a little flight plan from Manchester to Newcastle. So that's what we're going to look at now. So I'm still on the options setting, so let's just cover these. So there's a nice little one, nice little couple of things here. So we've got options here in the FMGC. So default barrow. So what this basically means is, of course, if we're flying in Europe, a European airline, then we want to be working in hectopascals, not HG. So normally you would spawn in before now and it would always be in HG, and you'd have to set that to hectopascals, which 1013, that's just standard. Well, now with this you can set it to default barrow, choose whether you want HG or automatic, for it'll work out where you are in the world, or just set it to HPA, which is what I prefer. Weight unit, of course, you can select from kilograms to pounds, again because pounds are used in the USA, and if you watch here the gross weight at the top, it says kilograms, change that and suddenly we're in pounds, and again that just works very nicely. Acceleration altitude is set by default, I think, to 1500. I think it's just EasyJet SOPs that I use. The acceleration altitude is 1,000 feet, and that's 1,000 feet above. That's 1,000 feet above ground level, and the level of the airfield. So be aware that is not above sea level. Okay, so that's that little page. The SIDS menu at the moment only has one option, and that is to change the passenger signs to read no portable devices instead of no smoking. No smoking is just a given now on aircraft, so the new A320neos instead have no portable devices, which you can see is, have we turned that on? No, I didn't do that intentionally. So if you now turn on what actually says passengers, no smoking signs, so if we click that, and now come down and have a look at the ECAM, we've got no portable devices listed, so that's quite a nice little touch. Okay, let's go back. Alright, so here's where it starts to get interesting. So the AOC options. So down here is this, that's where you find the Simbrief, which is what many of you have been waiting for. So if I clear that and click into the Simbrief, what you need to do then is insert your username in Simbrief. Now I know obviously some usernames people use have maybe an underscore in them or anything like that. There are a couple of things to try with this that I know the devs have worked on. So you can either insert a space, which is SP on the MCDU, or I think even if you've got a dash, you can try the slash. You can also try it without your spaces or underscores, things like that. I think that's been trialed as well. So there is a way around it. So if you do have a Simbrief password which uses a special character, just try removing the special character in lieu of a space. So I think that that's there to design to help that. So if we now I've got that EasyJet SimPilot, my username on Simbrief. Incidentally, of course, if any of you are actually sat in the simulator at the moment going through any of this with me, what you can do, and this will be great for community fights, what you can do is you can go into your A320, into the page that I'm on now, the A320 Simbrief profile option, and you can enter my username, EasyJet SimPilot, and you will get the same flight route that I've currently got prepared in Simbrief. Can I get rid of the chat? Yeah, of course I can, and I'll leave that on for cruise. Move that out of the way. So there you go. It wasn't interfering with anything I was pressing, but there you are. So let's once that's all in there, let's return, and that's basically everything set up, ready to start your Simbrief integration. So next we go back to the MCDU menu, which is this page here, and we go to ATSU. So let's the AIDS and the CFDS do not work at the moment, so these will be things that are coming in the future. You can have a little look through, just see what will be coming. So the system reports and tests, etc., that will be coming. Flight management guidance, computer, that's just there to make sure your nav data is up to date. But basically it's the ATSU menu that we're after. Kareem, hello, thanks for joining. So ATSU, now what we're looking to do is go to the AOC menu. So if we go there, the next page we want to go to is the top left, init press. So let's go here. Okay, so this is where we are going to pull our Simbrief data into the computer. Now let me just bear with me 1 second while I load this up for you, because what I will do is I will pop this on screen so you can see this in a moment and just see how that works. So Magic Gnome, can you please explain the acronyms news? Well, MCDU's straightforward. It's the Multifunctional Computer Display Unit. No, it isn't. It's the Multifunctional Control Display Unit. To be honest with you, I have to look up the ATSU and the AIDS because I can't remember those by heart. But they're usually for communications with your given company and things like that. So I'm just pulling up my Simbrief flight plan that I had pre-prepared for this. So if I just put this on here, hopefully you can see that now as well. So here's the Simbrief flight plan that we're going to load in now. So I've shown you how to set up that with the with getting a username in there. Kareem, yeah, this is the brand new version of the A320NX released this morning. Actually, I think it was released about 3 AM Zulu time, so I was fast asleep. Okay, so all we need to do to start to get our Simbrief profile loaded into the computer is, and just before I do, and I'm doing this for a reason, you'll see why in a moment, I'm going to just reduce the fuel set in the simulator and reduce the payload to 0. Okay, so our payload is 0, our fuel is 950 kilograms, so that's very little. But you'll see why in a moment. Strongwheel, no, I'm not a developer of the FlyByWire, but I am one of the QA testers for it, so I had the privilege of running through some of this before it was released. Okay, so all we need to do to start pulling this in is press the blue init data request. So if we press that, just give it a second, and straight away we have brought in information from the OFP, which you can see on screen. So there is our flight number, FlyByWire 050, why not? Our departure airport, we're at Manchester, and a destination airport, which is Newcastle. Fuel on board 0.8, that is our current fuel on board. So if you just scroll up here, you'll see there we go, fuel on board is 820 kilograms. Striker Customs, we are in the A320NX version. So I'm just reading that. James here, is it because the takeoff and landing seem a lot slower with this mod? Well, flight dynamics have also been altered a little bit as well to help reflect realism, so maybe. So fuel on board 0.8, that's the current fuel on board. Estimated time en route will be 29 minutes for this flight. Okay, so at the moment it says init data request advisory, press that again, and that's now been sent over. Okay, so let's just scroll across to page 2, and at the moment this is a page that will be upcoming because Autoland is not yet implemented, but just to let you know it's there. Alright, so we basically brought that information into the computer. What we now need to do is actually program that into the actual aircraft. Gully1345, check the about page, mate. The PC specs are on there for you. Eastward Lee, does it load the most recent flight in Simbrief, or is there an active plan each time departing, depending on the time and date of the OFP? It loads your most recent one, so I could have created this one last night. If I had not created any others, then it would still be that one that's working. Because of the Brexit, you're not allowed to fly to Europe. Not true. We just fly as EasyJet Europe, and not EasyJet UK. Okay, so the next page you want to go to then to actually get all that information pushed into the computer is to the performance, weight and balance page. So let's key in there. So you can already see, look, there we go. Block fuel, taxi fuel and trip fuel are already predetermined for us, and they match up exactly, if I just scroll down here, match up exactly with the Simbrief flight plan that we have there. So taxi fuel of 200 kilograms, block fuel, so that's where it says planned block on the Simbrief flight plan, which is just there for you. So that matches up exactly as well. What else have we got? We've also got the trip fuel, so you can see trip above that 1041. That's matching up there as well for you. Okay, so what you need to do then to actually load all those figures and that amount of fuel, that 3119, because that's the block fuel, that's the one that that you load into the aircraft, what you need to do is simply press the refuel load button. Before we do that, just keep an eye here on the gross weight of the aircraft, which is 41600. So once I press that, there we go, that's just shot up to 44000, so 44,000 kilograms. That's the gross weight, of course, of the aircraft, 44 tons. What I will do now is just show you, if you go to the weights menu, that has been loaded in for us, and you can see the fuel slider has moved. That's important because in a minute I'm going to load the payload, and you'll see that once we've loaded the payload, that does not move, even though the aircraft has got the payload that we request on board. So once we've done that, press the OFP request, and we just send that, and that's been sent. Go back to the AOC menu, and then go to the performance, weight and balance page again. This time I actually didn't need to come out back to the AOC menu. It's actually page 1 of 2. If we go over to page 2, and now we get some interesting information. If I go back up here, so you can see our weights for this planned flight. Alright, so our payload of 16328, again, perfectly matches what the Simbrief flight plan is telling us. Not only does it match, but you can see forward baggage and rear baggage has all been predetermined and loaded. Well, not yet loaded, but it's there ready to go. So that's that we will then pop into the aircraft and load into the aircraft again by pressing the payload button just here. Now what's important as well here is you've got a zero fuel weight of 57.3. That is important, you'll see in a second, 57.3, so just make a note of that. So that's your zero fuel weight, and we just use the standard zero fuel weight centre of gravity of 30. Okay, so the zero fuel weight is 57.3. That matches exactly, rounded down very, very slightly to our zero fuel weight, which is on the flight plan. So that's important there to make sure that that is accurate as well. Okay, so again, watch the gross weight for me in the top right, and as soon as I press the payload button, there we go. So our gross weight has now gone up to 60 tons, 60.3 tons. This is a nice little feature as well. You've got a number of passengers, 157 there. It's in green, which means at the moment we can't change that. So that's set. We can't do anything about that to move it. Alright, so we've now got the passengers loaded, we've now got the fuel loaded, but again I just want to bring your attention to the fact that if you go to the weight screen, our payload is still set to 0. Well, at the moment this menu now is incorrect and wrong. Okay, don't touch any of the sliders because the fly-by-wire mod has already loaded the aircraft for you, as you can see here as proof the gross weight of the aircraft in the top right hand corner. Okay, so basically you never need to touch this screen again, but the only thing you do need to take from it, the top right of this screen, is your centre of gravity, because that is now the centre of gravity of the aircraft for takeoff. And that's important because if you're going to set the trim position, you need to know that. But that's for a different day, a different video. So if anyone's got any questions so far, or I've missed something that you wanted to see, please let me know. I'll go back and do my best to do that. So let me just look at the chat actually, make sure I've not missed anything. So the whole idea of this, I want to do a little bit, obviously want to do a little bit of a tutorial, but the main aim of this evening is just to answer any questions you guys have got. So feel free to ask away. So I'm just scrolling through that. So imagine, what is the OFP request send used for? So at the moment I don't believe that is actually functional. I think from what I gather, what I think they want to do is, at the moment, once we've landed at our destination, you can't pull in a new flight plan. I think the idea behind this will be that if you then press the OFP request, you can request the next flight plan without having to exit back to the main menu and spawn back in again. I think that's the idea behind that. Mako Simulations, hello, thank you for joining us. I thought you'd great that you're here, and we're just showcasing a little bit of your airport as well. So guys, if you like what you see, please check the link in the video description and go and get yourself this wonderful looking airport. Oh, I'd not even noticed that we got the Thomas Cook hangar still behind us. Obviously, probably not used by Thomas Cook at the moment. We are going to take a drone flight as well over this lovely looking airfield before we finish tonight. Okay, so at the moment now we've got the payload and we've got the fuel load all in. Any questions about Simbrief integration? Because in terms of getting it ready, that's about it. Once we've done that, we then go to our init page, and this is where it becomes very, very clever, because all you need to do now is press init request, and if we do that, everything is automatically populated for you. So I think that is I think that's amazing. And I did get a few comments when this was first showcased on the channel, saying, well, that is not very that's not very realistic, is it? Because it's taking really the pilots program everything. Well, actually it is realistic, because nowadays what the flight plans are so complicated, with goodness knows how many waypoints on airways and things like that, that very rarely do you program a full flight by hand anymore. They're sent by data link, very, very similar to this. So it is realistic. You go through all that, you pop everything in, you hit the init page, init data, and init pops. The only thing that is not realistic, and they've gone a little bit too far, but that's probably just because of the way the Simbrief integration works, is realistically you would still need to pop in your from and to up here. You'd still need to pop in your flight number. I think you also need to pop in your alternate, although I'm not certain about that. You definitely still need to pop in your cost index, and you need to pop in your cruise flight level and temperature. They would not normally be pulled in automatically for you. You would have to do that. But hey, it's saving us a bit of time, isn't it? I don't know if actually you can go in and change that. Let me check. So funnily enough, tonight the cruise flight level and the cruise temperature are accurate, but the cruise flight level is always accurate, the temperature not always accurate. But if I wanted to change that, let's just see if we can. So if I want to change it to 120, let's say it's going to be a couple of degrees cooler at that height. Can we go in and change it? Oh, we can. So there you go. You can go in and edit that as well. So that's absolutely fine. Just come back to the chat a minute. Gabrielle, so they got the i7 370, only get 28 to 33 FPS in the virtual cockpit with version 5 on ultra settings. Do you notice some degradation in performance? No, I don't, but then I'm not running ultra, I'm running high with a couple of medium, couple of ultra. But my PC is not as powerful as yours. Check my specs on the about page. What I would recommend is turning off the first officer's displays, and also the refresh rate as well, which is in the options in the simulator. Slow the refresh rate of the glass cockpit instruments down. That will give you some frame rates back as well. So does the Simbrief integration put the flight plan in for you? Well, yes it does. So if you go to the flight plan page, click that, and you'll notice we're only, this was poor route choice, wasn't it, really? But Manchester to Newcastle actually only has one point between them, and that's Pole Hill. The reason for that is if you actually look down at the flight plan, you can see that. So here's the flight plan. So departing runway 23 left, flight level 110. We're taking the Pole 1 Yankee departure. We then go to Pole, which is here in the flight plan, and then after Pole we enter the SID, which is the Pole 1 November SID for star, sorry, for Newcastle runway 25. Now this is very important because this is also true to life. It will populate all of the waypoints on your flight plan, but it will not put in your SID or your star. and again that's realistic. So we would still need to go Manchester, departing from realistically I'd depart runway 23 right, which would then actually be the Paul 5 Romeo departure. Pop that in. So then we've got a few more waypoints now, and we can also set Newcastle, arrival, ILS runway 25, and it's the Paul 1 November. So if we pop that in there, there's all the waypoints that we would need. But yes, it does populate all of the waypoints between your two airports, but you still need to pop in your SID and your stars. So so that's it really in terms of the Simbrief questions. It's all there for you and ready to go. The only thing you need to do then is go into your init B page, pop in your zero fuel weight from your flight plan, which is 57.3. 57.3. Oh, try that again. 57.3. And the zero fuel weight center of gravity, which at the moment just uses a default of 30. You can then press the fuel planning button. What that does is it tells you, estimates that it would need a block fuel of 2.6 to get there, so you can either enter that, but what you really should do is enter the amount that you are flying with, which for us is 3 tons, 3.0. So if this block fuel is higher than what you have loaded, then you need to do an error check because something has gone wrong. You don't want to be taking less fuel than you actually need. So there's the block fuel popped into the fuel prediction, and you then need to pop in the trip wind, which is giving us a tailwind of 40 for such a short journey. Is it windy tonight? Actually, I did take the dog out just before I started this, and the wind was blowing a little bit. So tailwind of 40, pop that in there. Okay, there we go. Okay, so just coming back over to the chat. So Ronald, in colder temperatures, would you put on the de-ice? Is it the de-ice you're referring to there? De-ice is only needed in temperatures between -10 to -40. That's true air temperature as well, TAT, not SAT, not the saturated air temperature, and only when flying through clouds as well. Which question do I prefer? Which question? I have a question. Look, I can't read. I have a question. Which airplane do you prefer most, Boeing or Airbus? Just Airbus for me, but maybe I'm biased because I've been taught how to fly them, and I just find them very intuitive. So let's Antiza turn. Oh, just answering Gil there for us. Turn on the FPS checker. Make sure it's not limited. Danny, good evening. So when you're at the top of the descent and start the descent with 250 feet per minute, my aircraft won't keep at that descent rate. I have to set the descent rate a few times. Do you know why that's happening? So Danny, what's probably happening at a rate of descent that steep, your aircraft's probably speeding up, and speeding up far too much for the altitude that you are at. So in order to reduce the and keep the aircraft within a safe envelope of speed, it is raising the nose to make sure you don't overspeed. Realistically, you don't want to be descending any faster than 1800 feet per minute. That's sort of the maximum. Again, I've got a top of descent video which should explain that in a little bit more detail. If I can find that. I've pressed the button and lost it again. Where's that gone? Oh, here we go. So again, if you want the top of descent, here you go. East Worsley, thank you very much. I'm glad you found the stream useful for you. Yeah, thank you very, very much for the donation. Of course, any questions you've got, please do go ahead and ask away. Alright, so technically that is everything set up for the flight. The only thing missing now would be the performance calculation, but again that's covered in a different tutorial. Get the V-speed loaded in there. So that's all set. Alright, so that's Simbrief in a nutshell. If I've missed anything that you wanted to know, then please do let me know and we'll cover that. Let me just go back and explain some of the other new features in this new build. Remember that one of the things that I was saying, there's a lot of the features are very, very subtle. So let me just pull them back up. So obviously we've got the Simbrief request has now been integrated, so that's good. Okay, the next thing then we've got, and do you know what, I will fire up the engines just so we've got that working. So get some bleed air going, warm our passengers up on this cold summer evening. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, I am sat here with a nice cold Budweiser in the office doing this stream, so go to the fridge, get yourself a nice drink. It's Christmas, it's 9:30 nearly on a Friday night. Need to keep the throat lubricated as well for chatting. Okay, so we'll start engine 1 just whilst we're here. Of course we should also turn on the beacon light as well. So I'll just come out and have a little look at this wonderful scenery. So let's see what else we've got. Can we now ask ATC for clearance? Very good question. As I said earlier, I don't use default ATC, so let's try it. So if we go now to Manchester clearance delivery, request IFR clearance from the instrument flight plan. Let's try it.
Manchester clearance delivery, Puss and Foxtrot Bravo Whiskey 050 IFR to Newcastle, ready to copy.
Puss and Foxtrot Bravo Whiskey 050 is cleared to Newcastle Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 23 left, climb and maintain 10,000 feet. Departure frequency is 118.775 squawk 0503.
So hopefully that answers your question. You no longer need to pop the full flight plan in the Microsoft Flight Sim flight planning screen. It's all there for you, and once you've got that sorted and loaded in, you can go to ATC and request your flight plan, etc. And I'm going to have to acknowledge that, otherwise they're just going to keep talking to me, aren't they? I say I don't use the default ATC because it's not perfect. So there we go. Let me just nip back in there and oh, okay. I'm gonna have to let her finish. There we go. Switch frequencies. Can't hear them anymore. So that's brilliant, isn't it? So you don't need to do anything other than spawn in at the gate of your favourite airport or wherever you're flying from. We'll just start engine 2, and then get your ATC clearance if you are using default ATC. So hopefully that answers that question. Let me just check the chat again. J-Hab, dark fruit cider, nothing changes. I have got that as well in the fridge, but I went for the bottle. I thought I'd got less chance of spilling that here in the office. So Lee, can you hear the barking dog sounds? I think they were removed in one of the dev builds. I don't know if they've put those back in. That's the PTU kicking in, isn't it? I'm sure I read somewhere that was being put back in, but I have not heard it, so that may still be something that needs to go. Anthony Ball, oh my God, that's made me so thirsty. Anthony, have you been on a flight today, or have you got a day off? No more zipping down the coast of the USA. So that's great. So Cam's Cars, great channel, thank you. I'm still having issues with the autopilot. I can't wait to try out the new stable version tonight to see if it works. Well, what we can do is, we've got the engine started, so we may as well do a pushback, takeoff, and if anyone's then got any questions about the autopilot, we can probably clear those up as well. So Danny, that makes sense. Landed in Dublin a few minutes ago. Planned directly to fly a ship, although reduce the descent rate. Yeah, so reduce that descent rate, and hopefully you shouldn't. It'll hold the descent rate because the aircraft's not getting close to its overspeed. The PTU sound puts you back in holiday mode. Okay, right. Well, let me just check everything. So we've got ECAM displays here, no portable devices, seatbelts, parking brake, predicted wind shear is currently off, TCAS APU is off as well. I'm just quickly scanning down my checklist, making sure I've not missed anything that's going to show you any new ECAM messages. So that's all set. Turn the flight directors on. Just a point of order, flight directors, even if we turn the screens off to save frame rates over on the first officer's side, you still need to turn on the flight directors at both sides. Okay, so let's push back and see what happens. I'm going to use this external view for Manchester. Again, Manchester that you can see here is from Mako Simulations. Check the video description to get a link to that. And of course, it looks rather nice. What I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to taxi down to runway 23 right. I want to see if the airport pub's been modded in there. One of my favourite places to go. Me and my boy spent many happy hours there waiting for that. Anthony, you've just returned from Cancun this morning to snow. Oh, but that was a shock. If anyone needs to know how to actually install this new fly-by-wire mod, hang on a minute, I need to release the parking brakes, otherwise he's going to be pushing back very, very slowly. There we go. If anyone wants to know how to do that, let me see if I can grab the link to that for you. Where's that gone? So you can obviously go to the Discord page for Fly-by-Wire and get it, or if I just copy that link, here's the direct link to download it. There you go. So what I do like now about modded airports is that we actually get the parking stands in the taxiways, so we know where we're going, something which sadly is missing off default, but never mind. Pretham, you've just joined. Thank you very much for coming and seeing what this new aircraft is all about. Oh, Michael's the airport pub in development, ready for the next release. I'm about 15 hours too early. Oh well, I tell you what then, I will wait until that's done before we do a little tour of the airfield, because that is one of my favourite spots. So I'll just get this get the aircraft pushed back. That looks good. So we can stop that there. Let me just quickly jump in, set the parking brakes. I also get a lot of people asking the on this fly-by-wire modded version, the aircraft taxis, even though the fuel is at the thrust is at idle. Well, that's not a bug. That's accurate. That actually does happen. A lot of the time, if it's a long taxi to the runway, we'll use single engine taxi. That slows down your speed, also saves fuel. But if you are going to do a single engine taxi, a couple of things you need to be aware of. Make sure that you turn on the yellow electric hydraulics pump, which is highlighted just here for you, and your engine number 2 needs to be running for at least 3 minutes before you set takeoff power. So that's why you can only use it under certain circumstances. Normally when there's a lot of traffic ahead of you before takeoff, which at the moment sadly isn't the case, is it? What pushback add-on am I using? I'm using a very simple one called Pushback Helper, which I was implored to do by all the viewers of the streams because they got fed up with me using reverse thrust. Now we've done that, we can actually close that down. So let me just tidy the aircraft up. Engine mode selector off. APU bleed can come off. Taxi lights on. Problem, is this flight sim 2020? Yes, it is. The left wiper goes on when I start the batteries with no ability to turn it off. Mika, is that on the build made today? If so, I've not seen that. And obviously, there's your wiper. Off is just there. That's obviously the captain's side. First officer's side. Set the wiper to off and slow. They should always be off in those positions before you turn on the batteries. Reason for that is because if you've got sand, grit or anything like that, you're going to scratch what is essentially a very, very expensive windscreen. Okay, so let's release that. We should close the cockpit door as well. brethren, thank you very much. Glad the videos are of help, and as I say, please do check out the stream for full tutorials and anything like that, for more detailed versions of anything I'm rattling through this evening. And of course, if anyone has got any questions, please don't be afraid to ask. Okay, so let's taxi to the runway. There's a van in front of us that wants to get run over. Never mind, we're bigger than he is. And I've just realised something. Bear with me, I really hope this works. I've just realised before I started this I unplugged my side stick to get the Manchester loaded in. So it may crash in a minute when I insert this peripheral. Let's see what happens. Are we still streaming? Are we going? With that, I know what I'd better do. Oh, there we go. New device detected. Hang on a minute. Keep default. Resume. Let's see if that works. We're still streaming. That's good. I've never had to do that before, so I was rather worried what was going to happen there. Let me just do a flight control test to see if this works. Oh, wonderful. Look at that. There was a time as well where if you did do that, the sim crashed. That's clearly been updated. Okay, so I can now actually taxi to where we want to go. Mika, I missed your liveries question, mate. Please do ask that again, and I'll do what I can to help you with that. Ronald, are we in contact with ground departure? Do you stay in contact? I've turned default ATC off just because I find it annoying. I only usually fly if I've got VATSIM ATC. Otherwise I just fly without ATC. So whilst we're taxiing, let's have a little look outside at this wonderful Manchester airport. Looking very good. And the stand just over there, just here, is where the A380 for Emirates parks. The large stand. I should have taken that taxiway down there, but never mind, we'll take it a little bit further on in a moment. There's the old control tower and the new control tower just there. Is that the Jet 2 building? I believe it is. And in the hangar just here, Maku, how's the aviation viewing park coming along? What have we got there? So I can see it just coming now, and the new VIP terminal as well. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to very quickly halt the aircraft, hold it there. I'll just showcase this this great airfield off. So let me just set that up. I'm going to pop the parking brakes on. Why are we still rolling? I thought I'd just put the parking brake on. There we go. Yeah, so let me just have a quick look around. I can't get used to these drone controls, by the way. Oh, there we go. Oh, very nice. So there is the aviation viewing park. For those of you at Manchester that are familiar with it, you can actually see the outline of the old, I think it's an Avro 100, isn't it? The aircraft just there. There's the aviation gift shop, to which my boy has made me spend a fortune. And one day, if you can actually go in there, if we can go in this hangar here, oh, there will be a Concorde one day, I'm sure. So yeah, we've got air traffic there, and that is because at the moment we're actually on all players, so we've got live all players. So if any of you are in the sim and fancy joining me, you can do. I'm just having a quick look around Manchester at the minute. We'll get in the air in a moment. Fantastic. And as he was saying a little bit earlier, the airport pub is due for releasing the next build. Oh, it's there, look. Oh, the start of it, certainly. There's the airport pub. Again, spent far too much money in there. Alright, let's get back in the aircraft. So Mika, when it comes to aircraft liveries, what you need to make sure is that you don't put a zipped folder in there, and once you've unzipped it, you don't put that folder in there either. It's the folder inside that one, if that makes sense. So you need to make sure that you're only putting one folder in there and not a culmination of several of them. The engines for this particular aircraft are the LEAP engines. I think I saw someone ask that a moment ago. So there's a bug you've noticed in the dev version, the distance to target freezes. I've not noticed that. So let's do a high-speed taxi, shall we? Down to runway threshold. We'll get in the air and just check a couple of things. So let's just configure for takeoff. Flaps 1, auto spoilers are armed. Ding the cabin. We'll set the auto brake and TO config just before we line up on the runway. You also notice the ECAM status now is a new little message, says cabin is ready. So that's a new little thing. TJ, you're watching this from is that Las Vegas, LAS? I'm awful with my codes for American airports, I'm sorry. Because I know we're flying Europe. Mika, if you want to know the specs, check out the About Me page, mate, and they're on there for you. Xavier, no, sadly not a real EasyJet pilot. Thankfully I've got friends who happen to be real EasyJet pilots who basically taught me a lot and got me up to speed with doing things correctly. A Turtle, is that one of the new features as well? VR is shown in the PFD as a green bar on the speed. Was it not before? Do you know, I'd not noticed that. So 31st, it always does. It does it off when I change to target. Okay, well we might have a look at doing that as well if we can. Okay, so just before we go, there's the airport pub under construction. I will look forward to that. So a couple of things we need to do. Let's auto brakes to max. TO config is set. We'll turn on the wind shear. Turn on the weather radar. Turn on TCAS. Transponder is on. We also then need to, for doing this properly, takeoff light, landing lights on, nose lights to take off, and strobe lights as well. Runway turn-off lights are on there too. That's just as EasyJet standard operating procedure to turn the runway turn-off lights as well. Rambert93, thank you very much. If you do enjoy the channel, please consider supporting it. We've got super chats and super stickers are available for use as well. Eastwards Lee, so is this the moment I'd start the second engine if I was only doing a single engine taxi? No, you need to make sure your engine has to be running for a minimum of 3 minutes before setting takeoff power. So realistically, in the simulator, it's not that often that you're going to be sat on the tarmac for 3 minutes before setting takeoff power. But obviously in real life, if there's a queue of traffic there waiting to depart, that is a very realistic scenario. And sometimes it's the reason, I don't know if you ever listen to air traffic control and they'll say, oh yeah, we're taxiing, we're nearly there, we'll be ready in just a minute. One of the reasons is the waiting for the engine to be running for 3 minutes. And that's another reason you've got things like the chrono just here, so you can set the second engine running, start the chrono, you've got to wait 3 minutes before you can go to take off thrust. So there we go. As soon as we take off, how far of an altitude do we climb that's comfortable? Ronald, that is entirely up to the SID Normally they have constraints on them. In fact, if I turn the constraints on, which I can do, let's just have a look. Have we got any constraints there? I think we've got a constraint of about 5,000 feet is the initial climb out from Manchester, if memory serves. I'm not really doing this flight correctly, but I'm going to set that as it is. Okay, so we're all ready to go. We've also got a company message come through there. Is that the weather? Probably would have been, as I was just showing you how to do that. Oops. Back to the ATSU page. AOC menu. Received messages. Oh no, it's free text from Swissair 28. Have a good flight. Greetings. It's from Gordon. Hello. I don't know if you're watching on the stream, but obviously sending me the message. That's a great little feature as well. You can message your friends if you're all flying on the fly-by-wire mod. Cool. Milan, why are the first officer primary flight displays and navigation displays not turned on? Just turn them off and it saves quite a bit on frame rates on this aircraft. So that is the only reason. Okay, so we're going to go with Toga power, takeoff go around power, just because I've not set it. What I'm also going to do is just stop, because I've just realised there's another little message there. So you can see that we've got packs in green above here, because a lot of the times aircrafts will turn the packs off for takeoff, just to give a bit more oomph to the engines. So now, I would have imagined that to change actually. That might change when we go to Toga power. Let's see what happens. So we're set to Toga power, takeoff thrust, side stick forward ever so slightly until we get to 100 knots. Now, well, that's 100 knots. There's another message bit on the ECAM which I'll explain in a moment. V1, rotate. Following the flight director. Okay, so what I want you to do now is, if you all watch where it says man Toga, just here, this will start to flash as you're used to seeing lever climb. I'm just going to wait for that to happen. There we go. So if you'll notice that the rate at which that flashes has now been changed to alter to reflect in real life. What it was doing, it was blinking rather erratically originally. So we can now reduce climb thrust, or reduce power to climb thrust. There we go. Flaps 0. I've not yet turned the autopilot on, by the way. We're still flying manually. Okay, so what I am going to do is I'm going to turn the autopilot on just so I can discuss a couple more things with you. Let's pop that in, shall we? And I'm going to actually just set an altitude of 8,000 feet. You need to still climb in selected mode, because managed mode does not yet work. So that will now set to climb at 2,500 feet per minute. We can leave that as it is. Okay, let's turn the ground spoilers, disarm the ground spoilers, put the packs back on, pressurise the aircraft. Okay, so can you see now that we've got outer tank fuel cross-feed? And the reason for that, gear, thank you. The reason for that is, if I go to the fuel page, can you see how the way the tanks work on the A320? You have got 2 outer tanks left and right, 2 inner tanks left and right, and then the central tank. Well, the central tank can be empty. That's no problem there. But the inner tanks here, where we've got 740, need to remain above 750 kilograms each. If, as they are now, they are below, then automatically the aircraft starts sending fuel from the outer tanks to the inner tanks. You don't need to do anything, but that is what that message means. The outer tanks fuel cross-feed, so it's just sending fuel into those inner tanks, and I believe that's just to help with a little bit of weight balance and the way that the engines are fed. Okay, so aircraft is still climbing normally. Thank you to all of you that reminded me about the gear. Clearly wasn't going through a checklist. I was concentrating on what was new, what could we flag up for you to see. Okay, so we've got reworked flight models, so flaps, angle of attack, drag thrust ratio, the vertical stabilizer, completely reworked engine, cockpit and ground roll sound, so hopefully you may have heard some of those. Completely reworked the interior and exterior lighting, and again these are all things that you probably won't really have noticed too much, but they are there. Major improvements to the display graphics for the PFD, ND, EWD and SD graphics displays. So again, it's probably not something you've noticed, but they now are reflecting more, a little bit more real life. Improved speed calculations. So when we did the speed calculations in the performance page, I can't go back to that now. But they're now a lot more accurate. Many of you are already familiar with the fact that you can now get METAR, TAF and ATIS requests, and of course the free text where you can send messages to other players in the sim. If any of you are in the sim, you can message me. So let me just come back to the chat, see if I've missed anything whilst I was dragging along. Indeed. Landing inhibit. Okay, so that's a good question, Terry. The landing inhibit sign, which appears in magenta on the upper right ECAM, is basically to tell you that a lot of the warnings during takeoff are disabled. For example, the ground proximity warning, that's not going to go off if you're taking off, because, well, you're going to be close to the ground as you take off, so you don't want that blaring out at you. So it's just basically to let you know that there are certain warnings that are disabled during that stage of flight. Aisha, which one's good, stable or dev? Go for the stable version at the moment. They are pretty much exactly the same. Anthony, there are some gorgeous women pilots at EasyJet, should apply there. I think they're trying to increase as well the amount of women pilots, though I think that might be worldwide. So hopefully we answer that question about the takeoff inhibit in pink. May I ask what the little screen above the MCDU is? Alright, so this screen just here, which is currently in op, that is how you can communicate with ATC, again via a kind of data link. That's not yet working. Why can't I align the IRS and the A320 with stable build 0.5.0? Aviation simulation? I am not sure. I can't possibly think of a reason. Obviously you've tried doing it with the 3 dials above, set them to nav. Incidentally, always set the left one, the right one and then the centre one. What you could try and do is, if you go to your MCDU menu, go to options, go to realism and then change your align time from real to instant. You'll then need to reload the aircraft though. Not exit the sim, just reload the aircraft, spawn again. See if that works for you. Can't see why it isn't working. Is the game really good? Oh, it's not a game, mate. It's not a game, it's a simulator. But I think it is. I think it's great. And in terms of graphics, you're not going to get anywhere close. Oh, look at that. So there's a wind farm down there. Has anyone noticed as well, the windier it is, the faster the blades spin? Noticed that the other day. Where can I download this build? 1 second. Where is it? Let me get you the link. So the link to download this current stable build is available here. There you go. Ronald, I love all this. Go back and do the research and watch it over and over again. That's true. I am trying to cover a lot of information all at once. Keeping my eye, of course, on the aircraft and on the chat. Make sure we don't miss anything. Oscar, thanks for joining, mate. How are you? Rylas, if you find VFR, it's great. No doubt. VFR, it's the best simulator going. To be fair, even IFR, with what with what the Fly-by-Wire team are doing, it really is great. Are we returning back to Manchester or going elsewhere? We might as well just continue on this route over to Newcastle and we see what happens. To which I am completely unprepared. We're certainly not doing this by the book. So we might make a bit of a mess of the arrival procedure, but who cares? I still have a bit of the flight plan window left on the screen. Do I? Oh, let me see. Oh, so I do. Sorry about that. That's now gone. So what is this flight? This is just a very short flight up to Newcastle from Manchester. We're only 87 miles away. So let me see. So Jensen, is it hard to control because I'm thinking about buying the game? Make sure you've got the very minimum you need a joystick of some description or flight yoke. Trying to fly it with a keyboard is, I say, akin to trying to control your car with an Xbox controller. It just ends very messy. So Ronald, we got off the runway quite fast? Does it matter? Sorry for the question. To be honest, I didn't set any of the stabilizer trim or anything like that, just to help stabilize the departure and the takeoff roll. So realistically, don't take anything away from the actual flight, because I'm really not doing this properly. If you want to see me do it properly, then check out some of the previous live streams. They're all done correctly. Right, so let me just go back to the changelog. So we've got minor features as well. So we've got a cabin pressure on the ECAM page. These are the sort of things that have been around for a while now. So one of the bugs which I need to bring to your attention is that as we do an ILS approach, we've obviously got two options. To establish on the localizer, you can press localizer mode on. When we do that, at the moment, for some reason, it also arms the glide slope capture, and you'll get glide slope standby capture in blue here. That shouldn't happen. So for now, what I would suggest doing, unless it is a localizer only approach, of course, and there is no glide slope, is just turn on the approach mode. Don't use the localizer mode. So yeah, if anyone's got any questions, this will probably be a good time before we try and attempt a landing. So how do I start the plane cold and dark without any route planned in it? Do I just set a departure airport and gate and no arrival airport? Yeah, that's pretty much it. And Superfan, if you are using this new Simbrief integration, then it really is easy. That is exactly what we've just done. So if you missed that at the start of the stream, then just go ahead, rewind and watch that for me, and I'll show you exactly how to do it. And if you're using default ATC, we discovered that also works, as you can, once you've loaded it all in, you can ask ATC if you can fly that route. Just muted that while I had a quick drink. Speaking of drinks, AM, buy me a drink at Manchester Airport. Oh, that's a shame. We've left Manchester, we're off to Newcastle now. Does that offer still stand? So asking again, a PC for Christmas. Will it run this? Dynamic Runner, I heard the guys heard that we're working on A380. Is that true? Yes, it is. It won't be for a few months though. Definitely not this year. Not that there's many days left of it. It's in development. It literally is at the drawing board, and I've seen some of the sketches for the cockpit and things like that. That should be amazing. And of course, it's been built from the ground up. They're not trying to mod an already made aircraft from Azobo, so there we go. Robert, where do I find the changelog? Let me grab that for you. So if you want to know the absolutely everything, here we go. there's the changelog for you. Another minor thing was that it says cabin ready on the ECAM during lineup and takeoff config. That is correct. Just to remind you that the cabin... Well, what should happen, I think, you arm the cabin by pressing cabin call up here. Let them know that you need to sit down for takeoff. And they actually have a button in the back which they press to let you know that they're all sat down and in their seats, etc. So and that's what that little message is all about. Okay, but is it going to be like the real one? I mean, will it have the A380 cockpit? Yes, it will. It's not just going to take an A320 cockpit and bung that onto the A380 with 4 thrust levers. It's a brand new cockpit, everything built from the ground up. So, whereabouts are we? How far are we away from Newcastle? If anyone online could grab me a current METAR weather for Newcastle, that would be very handy. Well, this stream would be going for 79 minutes. Wouldn't we be there already if we took the car? We've not been flying for 79 minutes, and if you can get from Manchester to Newcastle in 79 minutes, well done. Will the outer tank fuel crossfeed message always stay there? It will until the fuel tanks here are above 750, and that's why it's sort of flashing on and off at the moment. Realistically, it should pump them in, and it should stay there as far as I'm aware. It may disappear, and those tanks may fill up once we reduce thrust to for the descent, because obviously you're not pulling in the fuel then, are you? Okay, so we are 40 miles out. We've still got the constraints on there, but no need to start descending yet. We're still plenty of time away from that. Thank you very, very much, guys, for the METAR. So I'm going to go in here and enter this now. So we need to go to the performance page and enter all that information in. So QNH is 996. Temperature is 12. Winds are variable, but 170 at 8. 170 at 8. I haven't got the charts for me. I think transition altitude is probably, it's either 5,000 or 6,000 feet. Minimum descent altitude, oh god, I need charts for that. If anyone knows that off by heart, please let me know. I've not loaded Navigraph up for this. So what we'll do is we'll just pop 400 in there. Final approach speed calculated at 129. Fair enough. And the frequency is populated in the RadNav page 111.5. Lovely. Magic Gnome, I didn't notice that. You may have to go back to see. So the centre tanks have been up to 740 since the beginning. Probably because this is really, really low fuel load for this flight. Okay, so let's start the descent down to 4,000 feet. And the engines have just spooled back. I don't know if you heard that, and that's just because we've entered the approach phase of the flight. As we passed the decel point. Have we passed the decel point? We may not have done. No, we've not passed the decel point. I thought it was a bit early for that. Rolled back actually as I changed the altitude, didn't I? Easier, only one lower ECAM page is missing. Yeah, that's the hydraulics, isn't it? So we're still working on that. AM, I never answered your question. I am sorry. Please do ask that again. I do miss things sometimes. Boulderers, thank you for that. Let me go in and change it. So I didn't load Navigraph up for this. So we got 6,439. I wasn't a million miles off for it, I guess. 39 feet off. I'll take that on a Friday night. 3080 RTX GPU decent? I believe so. I will be honest with you. I'm not very technologically minded. So there are guys in the chat that I am certain will be able to give you a better information and a better informed answer than I can. Village, why do planes have back wings? Are you talking about the horizontal stabilizer? These wings here at the back. So they're the horizontal stabilizer, and they literally do as it says on the tin. They stabilize the aircraft horizontally. They also at the back they move the elevators. They move up and down just to help control the aircraft. What I did want to do, just whilst I was on this, oh, hang on. Can we zoom in and have a little listen to the some of the aircraft sounds? Let me just slow down my slow down the camera here a little bit. So, don't know if you guys can hear that. Just trying to get as close as I can so you guys could hear that. Just jump back in the cockpit. Where are we? I ain't close to Newcastle now. Excellent. Jensen, don't worry about it. It's a perfectly acceptable Danish name, that, isn't it? So they're the new sounds which Boris and the FlyByWire team has been working very, very hard on. I think he's also changed some of the click sounds as well. Those sounds there have had a bit of an overhaul. Some of the push button sounds, I believe, as well. In fact, do we need de-ice on? No, we don't. Let me just turn it on just so you can see some of the push button sounds. So again, they may seem like very, very minor things, but it all adds to the realism. And particularly if you are a real pilot in the A320, that's what you want to hear to get that feedback. Scorpion DK, thanks for joining us this evening. We're doing okay. We're doing an ad hoc flight to Newcastle as we demonstrate this new developer build. Taking a Q&A, so if anyone's still got any questions, please do ask them. If you've asked a question and I have not answered it, please do ask it again, as I probably missed it the first time round. Okay, so what I'm not going to do is fly the full published approach, which as you can see here, 10 miles out, takes us over Newcastle, and then we fly a small loop around. So let's come out of selected. Out of managed mode, and we'll go into selected mode. Heading 040 looks good. A-Turtle, near the lighting control on the pedestal, there's a knob for the floodlight. Will you be able to show what this is? Which one? There's a few. So the floodlight, I don't know if you can see that getting brighter and darker just there. It's basically a floodlight onto the upper portion of the pedestal. You'd really need to be in the dark to see that working. Same with the lights here. These basically turn on the lights for if you can see the green strip. It's basically lighting underneath the pedestal. Hope to control the McDougal on smartphone wirelessly. Well, Aerosoft I think did that, didn't they? Mind you, I could never get that to work. Josh, when I'm changing autopilot values, it jumps in tens and not single digits. I've had that. I have no reason or explanation as to why it did it. All I then had to do, if I wanted single digits, is I went up in tens, but then you can left mouse click, left and right. Oh, not like that. But then it does go back up in single figures. When planes land, why is it always the back wheels that go first? Front first landing would not be very comfortable. The main landing gears are also designed to take the main weight of the aircraft as well, so you want to touch down at that flared approach. You don't want to be coming in nose first. Come down too heavy nose first, you'll cause all sorts of damage. Rimbat 93, are we going to runway 25? Have you got the coastal scenery of Whitby Bay and North South Shields that the mods have done? No, I'm afraid I do not. In fact, the only mods that I have got, if I can think about this, so obviously the Fly-by-Wire mod, I've got Gatwick Airport, I've got Manchester Airport, just because they're two EasyJet hubs. I use self-loading cargo for cabin announcements, and I've got about 3 or 4 liveries in the community folder. That's about it. Try and keep the community folder as empty as possible, just because it's just extra stuff to load when we really don't need it. And those sort of mods for the scenery things are absolutely brilliant for low-level flying and VFR flying. So if that's the flying you do, then absolutely go for that, because it'll make a world of difference to your VFR flights. Sorry, just arrived now. Simbrief working? ? Indeed it is. So if you if you go back to the start of the stream, it shows you basically how to get that all set up and working. Jensen, don't worry about it. The whole point of this channel was set up to get people who have been flying either for the first time ever or experienced flyers flying with Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. So don't worry about asking any questions. Okay, so let's do a nice turn to line up now with the ILS at Newcastle. Glide slope is now just coming above us, which is fine. We may cross through the localizer in this turn. There it is, look. So we're just going to have to spin all the way around, but that's not a problem. Okay, so flaps 1. When do aircraft, so Leonardo, when I put the aircraft to descent altitude, doesn't follow the restrictions, how can I do that? If you are in selected mode and not managed mode, it won't follow the constraints. So you kind of have to do that all on your own, so to speak. Constraints are only followed when you're in managed mode. How far off the destination do you reduce to finalist approach speed? It can be as slow as sorry, I'm just sorting this out. It can be as low as 6 miles. Some ATCs sometimes need you for spacing to maintain a faster approach until about 6 miles away. So yeah. So the glide slope, we're more or less descending with that at the moment. I'm going to hit the approach mode, and we should then capture the localizer as well. So localizer green, localizer blue, sorry, glide slope blue. So they're both armed. Capture that in a moment. So it's now captured the localizer, captured the glide slope as well. It's going to have to make a sharp turn there. That's why we don't normally intercept it at an angle of more than 30 degrees. Epil, could I fly to Glasgow? Yes, I could, but not tonight, I'm afraid. Flaps 2. Jensen, no problem, my friend. Thank you for the sub, and I'm sure we'll see you again very soon. Alright, do we get real-time louds even if we change the time? Is that meant to say clouds? No, the clouds stay exactly the same. Well, I'm in real-world weather at the moment, so the clouds will stay the same regardless. Flaps 3, landing gear down, spoilers armed, ding the cabin. So, slight headwind. Rather, those clouds are not too low. Those clouds are exactly where they should be, my friend. Flaps full. They're consistent with the METAR that we received a little bit earlier. So we've got, again, the cabin ready sign, so that basically tells you that the cabin crew are all sat down and they press the button to tell us that we are ready. All that's left to do now is hopefully give a decent landing. But I can't promise that.
1,000.
John Garcia, this is the Airbus A320neo. So we're at 1,000 feet from coming down, so with that, autopilot off. Oh, trying to get my view sorted here for the landing. There we go. And of course, always remember to make small corrections. Don't overdo it. Oh, goodness me. That's what happens when you fly on live mode. Haha.
Minimum 200.
Fair to say my approach does look a little better than that.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10. 5.
So if we just check this as well, can I zoom in? I don't care if I crash. But if zoom in, we've now got the medium brake is lit up to say that that's actually active. We can turn off reverse thrust. And, oh, where's he going? Fair enough. What you also didn't see there is if you turn on auto brakes now on the wheel page, I believe that is also shown. There we go. So there's another new little message as well. Okay, if I'm being completely truthful, that was a rather poor landing in fairness, but they have also changed some of the flight dynamics, so it's a case of getting used to those a little bit. Wasn't the greatest approach. We weren't stabilised at a fair distance out, but never mind, we touched down, we didn't collapse anything, and that's the main thing. You know what, I have just remembered that we are set to live play, so I will just quickly get off the runway. and the other aircrafts quickly spawning in underneath us did kind of detract the viewpoint for the landing. It's no excuse, I know, but I'm going to stick with that. Jensen, yeah, we can do Denmark at some point. We'll fly to fly there, no problem. What was the red warning on the ECAM? Was that the magenta warning which people said landing messages inhibited or something like that? It's the same message that we had at takeoff. Let me just park that there. Okay, so have I missed any questions before we sign off for the evening? Oh, there we go. In-game live players there. We will do a community flight as well, because that'll be fun. So we'll try and organise that soon. Yeah. So if I've missed any questions, just type me those in now quickly. See if we've missed anything. I'm just scrolling through the chats. So Simon, does autolang work now? No, not yet. Not yet. We've still got to do our own landing. Do you land with auto throttle switched on? Yes, you do. The speed is controlled by auto throttle on the Airbus all the way down to landing at 30 feet. Pull the thrust levers to idle. That turns off the engines, the auto thrust, and that's what disengages it. You don't need to manually push the button to disengage it. It'll happen automatically. So yeah. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that little impromptu Q&A session on the fly-by-wire. If you've missed anything and joined halfway through, please do go back and re-watch it. The Simbrief integration is obviously the main thing everyone's been waiting for, and we explain that in a little bit of detail at the start of this video, so please do go back and watch that if you're having any issues with it. So with that, I'm going to sign off for the evening. If there are any questions you've got that maybe you didn't think of, just leave a comment on the video, and we'll go back and watch. I'll come back, check the comments out, and always try to answer questions that we get in comments. I try to make sure I don't miss any. Andy Moore, thank you very, very much for your donation, my friend. If there's any particular flight route you would like us to do, please leave a comment, and I'll be sure that we do that as soon as possible. Of course, we try and do EasyJet flight routes, but at the moment, because we're not actually getting many EasyJet flights out, as with a lot of airlines, we are kind of making our own up a little bit around Europe. So yeah, anything you want to see, mate, just leave me a comment, and for the donation, we'll get that flight route sorted for you. So for now, I'm going to go to what is now the remaining of my rather warm beer. Has anyone else noticed flying this simulator that you no longer need the heating on? My office is boiling. Alright guys, thank you very much. Hope you all have a great weekend. As I say, if you have any more questions, just leave a comment and I will come back to them. I will see you in the next live stream. Thanks for watching. Good night.